What's up, y'all? Show Master Lee.
And Lulu.
All right, we've been at work all day, but when I got home, I heard about the huge fires that are going on in Hawaii. Holy moly. This is shocking because one is, I would just always assume that Hawaii as a tropical place, this is not something you would ever expect.
Exactly. Like my coworker just literally grabbed me and he was like, look, what happened to Hawaii?
It's crazy.
Like,
I mean,
what?
I get it if it's
Wow.
like California.
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
we lived in California and we actually been through and survived multiple fires, actually, both in the Bay Area and also in LA. And, you know, out there, the weather's very dry. California's actually desert-like climate, so you get it. But Hawaii, you know, the scenes we've been seeing out of like Maui here is just apocalyptic. That's the only way I can describe it. It's like insane. So
good evening. It was paradise in flames in Hawaii, where incredibly fast-moving wildfires on the island of Maui have claimed at least 6 lives overnight, framing parts of the picturesque tourist destination against a hellish backdrop. Homes, businesses, and the historic town of Lahaina destroyed. Power and communications on the island crippled. Residents and visitors urgently evacuated. Others literally running for their lives in desperate sprints to the ocean to escape the heat and smoke. Many of the injured were treated for burns. The fire sweeping across the western part of Maui, driven by strong winds fueled by a hurricane hundreds of miles away that initially kept firefighting helicopters on the ground. Miguel Almaguer has made his way to Maui and has this late report.
The apocalyptic scene in Maui unfolded before sunrise. An island wildfire so explosive, flames poured into the Pacific, forcing the desperate to plunge into the ocean to escape the inferno.
Careful right here.
The Coast Guard quickly plucking roughly a dozen from the water, as witnesses say the unstoppable blaze ripped across homes and took at least 6 lives.
The smoke was just so thick. People were running around looking for refuge. The heat was unbearable.
During the chaotic evacuation,
Oh my God.
hospitals treating at least 20 burn victims quickly became overwhelmed. 911 service went down, cell coverage is out, and the National Guard was ordered in to help.
It really took us by surprise.
As 70-mile-an-hour winds fanned the flames, the air attack was grounded. Quickly, multiple fires erupted. Historic sections of Lahaina were swallowed by flames and engulfed in smoke.
This is not a safe place to be. On certain parts of Maui, we have shelters that are overrun.
Calling the unfolding catastrophe unprecedented, state officials say some of Maui is without power. Roads are blocked, hotels are closing, and thousands of tourists and locals are trying to flee.
Our stuff is still at our hotel, so we are here at the airport with a flight tonight with no stuff. The firestorm came through and took everything with it.
But for those with nowhere to go or no way out, the extent of the damage is still unclear.
Local people have lost everything. They've lost their house, they've lost their animals, and it's devastating.
Tonight, this is the misery in Maui as a wildfire turns this tropical paradise into a hellish nightmare.
Here at the airport and across the island, some 4,000 people are trying to leave Maui, which is still under a state of emergency. Airlines are sold out and hotels are evacuating. Many have nowhere to turn.
The devastation is unreal and so fast because
of that freaking wind.
Yeah, and it's blowing. Yeah, so it's blowing from the east to the west. What's crazy is, you know, there's some mountains in the middle, right? And this is on Maui, right? It's not actually Oahu, which is a huge population, right? That's where the main business center is. But on Maui, you know, when the wind blows over, it actually dries out the air as it goes through the mountains. So it becomes really dry air and it just sweeps in and it just fans the flames. Man, the crazy thing about these kind of fires, right? And why you're hearing like people scrambling to jump in the water at the last minute because like, well, don't you see the fire coming? Like, you know, why are you still there? Why are you not evacuating? You know, these kind of wildfires, and, you know, especially having like, you know, been through a couple in California, when you see your hills on fire, it looks insane, right? It looks threatening, but it looks like it's far enough that you don't feel like you have to leave. And people tend to have that tendency of like, I think I'm okay here because it looks like it's going that way.
It's far, or
it looks far, and the fire doesn't look that bad. In fact, if you kind of look at the fire, right, the fire is always just burning on the edge, but you don't realize until it's actually near you how big those flames shoot up. So even if you have like, a foot or two tall of dry grass, when that wind whips it, it could go up to 20 feet high. By that point, you will feel it and you will get burned alive. If not burned alive, that smoke inhalation would just take you out. So those folks are jumping in the water the last minute. Like, that's how fast it comes upon you. Like, one minute you're like, okay, it's far enough. The next minute, like, oh, snap, we got to get the hell out of here. It's really scary to see it come in that way.
Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah.
It's like...
And Maui's such a beautiful place, too. Such a tropical paradise, man.
Which I've never been to.
Rebuilding, yeah. The only reason I was there is because of... I was part of the accelerator program. We went to Maui for a party, a celebration, and the beaches there are... They're so different. Totally different. Really beautiful. The nature there, the waterfalls there, so beautiful. And that town that was just eaten up, it was so idyllic. It was just, yeah, it honestly feels like it's just out of, a paradise. So, God, it's just going to have to rebuild, which is going to be so, so difficult to do. I remember when when the fires hit when I was living in LA, I was hearing it on the news on the radio, and I did not realize it had already gone all the way through Agora, crossing the highway. And the big fear that they had, at first they're like, it's not going to cross the highway. The highways were like 6 lanes wide. But as it started to approach it, they were going, all right, we're a little scared now, because if the flames do jump, because it's not like, there's anything to burn in between, but all it takes is like an ember to fly to the other side.
Yeah,
they would have been in huge trouble, because on the other side is a huge complex of office space and $1 million mansions in Malibu. So if it made its way through, it would have been pure devastation. And so I was driving.
Did it?
Oh, this is how close it got. I was driving, listening to radio. I'm like, all right, I could see in the distance, but it had already snuck around. And as the sun was going down and you see the flames, it was already licking the side of the highway as I was driving by. And I'm like, holy shit. And I'm looking at the other side because I was at work, which is in Agora Hills. I was working at a video game company, THQ. I'm like, oh my God, you know what, babe? I don't know if I'm going to have a workplace by tomorrow, because if these flames do hop it and everything else.
Oh,
so I was at that point going, okay, this is scary now. What do I do? Like, should I notify work? I was one of a few people who were in the office that day on the weekend, but luckily it didn't jump it. The wind changed direction. Yeah, and that's where it gets crazy.
It's all
the wind
about
could literally push it in the direction. Yeah. So hopefully the wind doesn't change and it just burns the edge, and that's it for Maui. And the second big hope here, I'm guessing, is that hurricane, which is supposed to be coming. Hopefully it's not a devastating hurricane, but it brings rain and it just, cools everything down and it wipes out the fires. But this is crazy. I'm just praying for everyone there. Hope everyone is safe, first and foremost. Hawaii, man, we got prayers out for you. We're thinking of you.